Hi and welcome back to Quinoa Paw Creations tutorial videos. Today we're going to see how I make my newborn baby moccasins. I'll be using the size 0 nylon thread for the beadwork on the toe of the moccasin, and size 10 needles with size 11 seed beads. When I sew together the moccasin, I will be using this size D thread. It's stronger, better to sew with. So this pattern, I just came up with an idea off of Pinterest that I just created my own pattern for the moccasin. And newborn baby, I use the palm of my hand and I just make a sole, like a contour of the foot. And then I measure out and cut the top of the moccasin. The leather I have is German tan hide that I buy from a fur trading place. And I just draw the sole pattern, make sure I have enough room there for my 1/4 inch seam that I'm going to cut out of it. And then I move down and place the top of the moccasin there. I put the holes in where the T is going to be, and then I draw lines with the ruler marking out the T, and I flip it over to do the other side. Always put my patterns on as close as possible to not waste the leather. And so I'm going to cut it out, making sure I'm cutting out a 1/4 inch around the sole, but right off of the top. Cut out the T, the top of the moccasin, and we're ready to assemble the moccasin. We have the 2 tops, the 2 tongues, the 2 soles, and the 2 seam bastings. I will be using the size 10 needles, and I'll just do a quick 1-stitch method beadwork on the top of the toe of the moccasin. And 1 bead in the middle, and just do a line straight out to the top. 1 needle method, sorry. 4 beads, go back through 4. And when I get to the end of the line, I'll come up and go back through the whole row. And that gets me back to the center. And I will do all of those starburst lines from the center. Gives me less stitches on the back to have to worry about. So one line straight down the middle, going back through the rows to get back to the center. And then a line across. And then adding the lines in between those to create that starburst design. Just a real simple 1 needle method. When I'm making a lot of moccasins, and just that simple design helps. Now we'll sew the tongue together. The first stitch I put on, I go back through that stitch, the loop, and I just call that my anchor stitch. At the beginning and the end, it kind of anchors that sewing down. And then I would just whip stitch all the way across. When I get to the other end, I'll still do that loop and go back through to make that anchor stitch. Tie it up, and we're finished with that. The tongue is all. It's easier to do the tongue before you assemble it. And now we have our 1/4 inch seam strap. Goes in between the top of the moccasin and the sole. Makes that seam of the moccasin sturdier and last longer. The sole of the moccasin that we've cut the 1/4 inch, that's where we're going to be sewing. That's our guide. It will sew down one side, go back to top and sew down the other. So we'll start that first stitch. That I will go through that loop of the stitch. I call that my anchor stitch. And then from there we'll just do that overlap whip stitch using that ink mark on the sole as our guide. And keeping the uniform stitches close. And then making sure that all 3 layers are even together as you sew. And that whip stitch is pretty quick and easy. Making sure that the stitches are straight as you're sewing. When you keep them uniform, and it gives a good seam to the moccasin. I'm going to go down the one side to the bottom, and then when we get to the bottom, I'm going to just make sure that we're getting the bottom in line with the top. Kind of give us an idea of how far we have to sew the seam all the way to the back heel. So we whip stitch to the end of that, and I do my anchor stitch as my last stitch in the bottom. Go through that loop and then go back through, giving that last anchor stitch. Tie it up and you're finished with one side. And we'll start back up to the top and go down the other side. Get everything all even together and create that anchor stitch to begin with. Going through that loop. Back through the all 3 layers, and that's the anchor stitch, and then you'll just do that whip stitch all the way around. Just making sure that your stitches come out straight. And uniform, so you're getting a good seam on that moccasin. And that anchor stitch, and you're done sewing the top of the moccasin to the sole. And I'll finished, and now you're going to kind of form that up and see how the back fits to the heel. Because the sole is contoured, the back side, one side may not be even with the other, so you're just gonna line it up real good and snip off the bottom or the end of that, and then you'll sew up the back end. When I start my going up the back side at the heel is where I will put my anchor stitch, facing towards the sole, facing the loop towards the sole of the moccasin. Go through there and then go back through, and then I will, the anchor stitch is facing towards the sole, and then you just whip stitch all the way to the top of the moccasin. Get to the top and make that anchor stitch, and you're finished with that. And you turn the moccasin right side out. Sewing is all done. Gonna have to get it open. You're gonna roll the seam to get that seam strap to lay flat, and I trim off the back ends. I go straight out, making it a straight cut so that the little tails are pointed out, and then I trim that seam strap as close to the moccasin as I can, giving it a good roll. And that would be how to sew the moccasin together. And then you're going to cut slits in the side, kind of just fold that in half. 2, 4, 6, 8 snips, and 4 in the tongue. Kind of just bead that through there, lace it all the way around. And that is how I make newborn baby moccasins. All finished up. Very nice. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you watching my tutorial videos and hope that you enjoy them. I will have kits, baby moccasin kits, on my website, quinoapawcreations.com. You can email me, Facebook me, anything. I will also sell my pattern for $2 each if you're interested. Kits have everything you need to make these moccasins with my directions. Let me know if you need anything. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you coming back to visit. See you next time. Thank you.